reflected on Engels' definition of the state as a special coercive force. And time passed. The house would be silent. The street outside would be silent. At most, there might be the hushing sound of a broom over pavement, as Joe swept the empty pavements in front of his house, next to mine. That silence would not change as the day went on. All through this time, I would do the same things in the same order. I first made a sort of bread for breakfast. In the quiet kitchen, I would turn on the oven. I took down a greeny-brown package of buckwheat flour, mixing it with soda water and something to give it some flavour. I would take a dessert spoon and, with a forefinger, unload the glutinous wet dough, pocked with caraway seeds, onto a sheet of baking paper. I would resist the urge to lick my finger, driven by the memory of mixing cake batter when I was a child in my grandmother's kitchen. This grey, gleaming dough held no secret appeal when raw, and not much when cooked. But it was good for you. I would put the dollops of buckwheat mix into the oven and make coffee. The automatic processes of the machine were thrilling to me, and their inconsiderate noises I always felt would wake my husband. The rattle of the beans falling into the reservoir and the shriek of the grinding mechanism. The machine had been in the kitchen for some years. It was only at this time, when the state had given an order and we obeyed the order, staying at home, that I had wondered what the term was for the part of the machine that the coffee fell into, that you pushed and twisted into a tight seal and let the boiling water drip through. I had looked at it daily and wondered what the name for it was for some time, feeling at first that the name was obvious, and it had only slipped my mind before giving up and investigating. The part of the machine had a name. It was called a portafilter. I recoiled from the name with disappointment and scepticism. I would never use the word, even in my thoughts. I pushed the handled thing forward, twisted and locked it, pressed a button, and the coffee dripped into the mug that was already there. Things around me had acquired names in this time, names not subjective or based in my history or habits of use, but ones with their own impregnable dignity and separation. That carpet in the bedroom, the one I bought when I was 21, was a sentence that had left me like a child leaving home, and the carpet was now what it had always been, a Qashqai prayer mat with so many knots per inch, with dyes of particular vegetables. I had turned back a corner of the carpet, like a favourite page in a novel. One quiet hour, I had counted the knots. The learning of names would be so slow all through this period, and with so doubtful an outcome. The prayer carpet was as impregnated with ideas as its knots were with the red dye of madder root. It pointed backwards to my rewarding myself for getting my degree, carrying the mystery and the idea, too, of the price I could not understand how I could have paid, of £650 in 1986. It pointed still further backwards to its world of devotion, where God would be found in a particular direction, and the carpet would be oriented to aid the worshipper. It was saturated in meaning, and dripped, and the names I learnt were the guide to those once empty significances. But not every name that had emerged had this meaning, or possessed any idea to enhance that raw physical substance. Sometimes it was just a name. At most, it was a history. The thing that the coffee machine ground beans into was a portafilter. That was no name, but a corporate label for a device, and the object's reality had been lost. I wouldn't